Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K Collector coming at you on a cool and crisp Saturday morning. And I just wanted to go over some of the comments that we've gotten over the last 24 hours to a couple of the videos that I've put out. And we've actually had some good conversation. So I wanted to go ahead and kind of share some of those with you. So I put out a video last night asking the question, how does gaming impact dating and relationships? And I got some pretty cool responses, and they varied. So I'm going to share some of them with you here. So first we have Keith Beard 5337, who said, my wife and I met on World of Warcraft over 10 years ago. I relocated to be with her, and we've since had 3 children and have a very strong relationship. She isn't what I'd call a gamer. She isn't interested in gaming news or the retro scene. She has her own hobbies, but has no problem with me collecting. She'll play a round of Mario Kart or Guitar Hero with me from time to time. However, video games are not the foundation of our relationship. We rarely even play WoW together anymore, which is World of Warcraft. But I can't deny it was an excellent dating app. So here we have a story from a gentleman who's been with his wife for over 10 years. And in his case, video games actually helped him find and build a long-lasting, healthy relationship. So I guess, the only thing I could say to Keith is that, yes, World of Warcraft might have been the medium, but it was probably Keith's personality. It was probably his ability to maintain a conversation with his wife. There were probably things about Keith that she found interesting outside of the video games, because as you can see, video games isn't something that his wife plays with him much anymore. He mentioned that they might get in a round of Kart or Guitar Hero, but his wife isn't as nearly as close to being as much of a gamer as he is. Yet they were able to build a strong and long-lasting relationship through video games. So here's a positive story. Here's an example of how gaming impacts relationships and dating in a positive way. But I think ultimately, from the small amount of details that Keith shared, it sounds like it was more of his personality that drove a positive experience for both him and his wife than necessarily the video games themselves. So thank you for the comment, Keith. I totally appreciate it. Great stuff. All right, scrolling down here, we have another comment on the same video, and this one came from J Blast Network, and he says, I think gaming can have a positive impact on dating or even meeting people. It just depends on the environment. Around me are bar arcades, manga stores, or local game stores where most people interact with each other and build relationships. Though it's not always a long relationship, which I think is getting harder to find even when you just want friends, I found most of my friends or people I would date in college either through classes or through sharing a similar game we played. Let's see. He says, while there was more to life than gaming, it was nice to have something to connect with to start a conversation. I still talk to those people today and even game with them on Saturday nights. But that wouldn't have happened if I never met them through school. I guess what I'm trying to say is when you are put in a social environment and have nothing to do but talk to someone, you'll find someone you may want to date even with your hobbies. But when you can leave the environment, like in a store or a bar, or end the game, as you say, you won't yield the same results. And then he adds to that comment and he says, when you're forced in social situations, you are forced to develop social skills and get comfortable talking to people. While gaming can be a single person experience, it can also include other people and even be a good icebreaker for some. I think that impact of gaming on dating is more of a social issue than just gaming. And first off, J Blast Network, thank you for the comment. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think he kind of makes a really good point, right? He's saying pretty much, hey, gaming is just a medium. Gaming is just the social it's really depending on, what type of gaming you're doing. He mentioned bar arcades. I know in New York, they actually have a bar called Barcade, that has it's pretty much just a bar, and they have a bar there, and then it's just nothing but old school retro arcade consoles. They do have Marvel vs. Capcom 2 there. So it's definitely a great place to go to kind of link up with friends. But that can also be a place, it's a social environment, right? And that's a social environment that's different from playing Marvel versus Capcom, in your attic on a Saturday night, as opposed to going to a bar that has the arcade machine and playing it there. And what he's saying is pretty much, if you put yourself in social environments, you're going to be forced to be social. And it's more so about the social interaction than the games themselves. And that's kind of what I was saying last night when I was saying that, it's really more so about your ability to step outside of your comfort zone and engage with people, even outside of dating and relationships, but just making friends, right? Meeting people, making acquaintances, building a network. You have to first be comfortable enough to step outside and actually speak to people. Where video games comes in is if it becomes a crutch or a reason for you to avoid those social interactions as opposed to embracing them. Because you can use video games in either direction, right? You can use video games to isolate yourself, or you can use video games as a medium to connect with people. So I think Jay made a pretty cool observation here. We're going to keep it going. Let's keep it going. So let's see here. So we have a Lego Boy, OX2KX. He comments on the same video and says, I generally have to interact with a lot of people on a daily basis. And while I am definitely a bit weird, I'm definitely not undateable, especially considering I've been in relationships in the past. Gaming has very little to do with my decision to stay single. It's the lack of dateable women my age, especially considering a lot of the women my age are in college, and I'm not, although I'm almost past that point. Give it a couple years or so. So it sounds to me like Lego Boy is he's already probably started his career, and he may be in a job where he's interacting with a lot of people, and video games really isn't impacting him from what it sounds like. It's just he's not really able to find anyone suitable, and everyone that I guess is at his point, whether it's in his age group or social circles, they're all in college. So, hey, look, if gaming doesn't impact you at all, maybe you should try picking up a cooking class at a local college. Maybe that might be something that can put you in a social environment that will allow you to meet people and make friends, right? Because the goal is ultimately to make friends, meet people, build your social skills, and then who knows, maybe as you get to know and meet people, you'll learn that you both like video games. You like playing them, you enjoy them, and it could become the basis for starting a strong friendship. All right, let's keep it going. So we have another user here. It says user TV5HL8UZ9S. He says, the single life has been good for me, my health, and my time. Short and sweet. Hey, listen, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you're in that zone or that point in life where, the single route is the best route for you. No hate. Embrace gaming. It gives you all the freedom in the world to go to gaming conventions. You can game hunt whenever you want, game all night if you like, and that freedom, I think, is priceless for some people. So shouts out to you, User TV. Enjoy. Okay, here we got another one. This is an interesting one. This one comes from, I think this is LexCast5401. He says, I'm 20 right now, and I always got called gay by my friends because I don't want drama or a girl in my life right now. There'll come a time when that changes, but right now I'm good by myself. I also don't want kids. Been playing video games as a hobby for the last 15 years. So that tells me that he's been playing video games since he was 5. So, and this is probably a better example of what I was referring to in my original video when I said video games can sometimes become that crutch or that thing you can lean on, as opposed to going after some of the more social things in life, whether it be making friends, building friendships, making relationships, dating, whatever the case may be. Because You know, some people are just as hesitant to make friends as they are to start a relationship for whatever the reason, right? And you know, I don't think it's fair to judge someone who chooses that path. I think if you decide that you're ultimately better off alone, you want to go the Lone Ranger route, that's definitely your prerogative. And I don't think because you choose gaming or because you choose video games over any of those social activities, definitely shouldn't be made fun of it, because gaming is cool no matter which route you're going, no matter what you decide to do. And gaming is mainstream now. So anyone who would call you gay or make fun of you for anything like that, they're just, I don't even want to say the word, right? They're just someone that you should avoid. Okay, so I think we'll go through one more, and let's see. We're gonna pick, let's see here. So we're gonna change gears here, and we're gonna go to a video that I put out that was titled "The PlayStation 4 Has Lost Its Value." So this comes from a commenter, Dan Halo 1405. He says, "Bro, if you collect consoles and games based on the hypothetical value, you doing something really wrong. You rather should collect the games that you personally love and care about. If you only look for monetary value, you are way, way, way better off to invest your money into financial stuff like stocks, the S&P 500, which outpaces all of your investment, into console games for sure. And it's also relatively stable and safe, definitely way less volatile than those kinds of collectibles. Especially with those newer consoles, you can't really predict what kind of monetary value they will have in 30 years, or if they are maybe going to completely crash." So Dan Halo, thank you for the comment. This is probably the last comment that I'll go over today, because I think he brings up a good point, right? So I think that there are levels to collecting video games. I do, and that's like anything else in life. There's levels to collecting, what you collect and how you collect. Now, we cannot deny that there is a monetary aspect of video game collecting, which is dependent on the types of games that you're collecting. When you think about things like the Castlevania that just recently sold for over $100,000, when you think about the, first edition Mario games and, the different games that have sold at high dollar values on auctions, you can't deny that those games have monetary value, and that to some degree they are an investment. There are a wide range of asset classes. I'm invested in the stock market. I'm invested in real estate. I like gold. I like silver. I'm definitely, I have my ear to the street when it comes to a lot of the different asset classes. But there's also that collectibles asset class that cannot be denied. And collectibles range, right? You can have collectible cars that go up and go down in value. You can have paintings that go up and go down in value. You have stamps. Some people have very exclusive stamp collections, coin collections. So I don't think there's anything wrong with believing that video games fall into that class of collectibles as well. Now, I think that it's also important that if you are going to consider that when you're collecting, I'm not saying make the monetary value the basis of your collection, but when you are considering the monetary value of your collection, it's important to start thinking about which games or which consoles will have and hold the most monetary value. Now, the difference between something like video games and the S&P 500, there's something unique about it. And even there's something so unique about the video games collectible hobbies from any other hobby, which is that video games are things that you can actually play and enjoy. They have a utility to them. Like, the most that you can do with a coin collection is sit there and stare at it. The most you can do with gold is, I don't know, stare at it, pet it. I don't know. You're not engaging with gold. When it comes to baseball cards, yeah, maybe you can look on the front and the back of them, appreciate the photo, read the stats to learn a little bit more about the player. If it's a comic book collection, even though a lot of times most people want to keep those sealed in protective cases and they don't want to touch them, they don't want to open them because they're, you know, fingerprints, that, so on and so forth. But at least with comic books, you can read them, right? But I can't pull out one of my shares of Apple and do anything with it, like, right? Like I'm not gonna sit there and stare at the S&P all day. At least with a collectible car, you can drive it, right? So I feel like there are certain collectibles that have an enjoyment factor that others don't. And I think that's what is somewhat unique about video games, is the fact that you can actually enjoy a video game that you're collecting. Now, obviously you can't do that if you have it sealed and graded, but if you have a video game collection of loose cart games or complete in box games that are in good condition, but you're still willing to take out of their case and play them, then I think that's the difference. And I think you can actually do both. I grew up playing the Dreamcast. I was a Dreamcast head, and I grew up playing Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. The Dreamcast has become one of the more highly collectible consoles today. And a lot of the games in the Dreamcast's library are pretty expensive. Marvel vs. Capcom, for example, $80 to $100 game. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, a $125 to $175 game on the Dreamcast. And these aren't mind-blowing values that you're going to retire off of, but if you build a collection of enough of these types of games or of games in this tier that are going to continue to go up in value, that aren't going to be as volatile as like a copy of Assassin's Creed, that's where I think thinking about what you're collecting definitely has an impact on the monetary value, if that's something you're considering. Now, if you're not considering the monetary value at all, then I say buy 30 copies of Crash Bandicoot Racing if you want and have at it, right? But I don't think that there's anything wrong with considering the monetary value while you buy games that you enjoy and will play at the same time. And usually games that are good, that are quality games, they're gonna have significant value to them regardless. But I'm interested to know your thoughts on these topics, you know, both the impact of gaming on relationships as well as the monetary value of your collection. Let me know what you think about these things. I'm going to start working on the video that I have for you all this afternoon. Hopefully you're having a great weekend, and I will see you this afternoon. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.